kind of thinking which is going on in Chinese academic circles as far as India's rise is concerned. So I remain skeptical, apprehensive about China investing in India. So they may be investing in some sector. For example, some of their top-notch policy advisors of the government. So they said that the way West propped up China's manufacturing capabilities by way of capital, technology, and managerial capacities, China should be careful, building some capacities for India. In 1947, when India became independent, Great Britain was 4 times larger than India. But now, India has superseded United Kingdom. But if you see the voting share of these countries in the IMF, we stand no chance. Forget about India, which is hardly having 3%. But China, with such a huge economy, it is still having 7% in time. Our relationship with the United States is still strategic. And we have many strong ties, which have been nurtured in the last 2 decades, very, very carefully. Therefore, irrespective of Trump's tantrums or some of his allies, you can say dog bites, whatever you call it, if I may use that language. I think at the end of the day, at the end of the day, I think United States and India, so they have to come together.
So today I am joined by Professor B.R. Deepak. He is an Indian Sinologist and he currently teaches at JNU. Hi sir, thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me, Vikram.
Yes. So we saw that yesterday PM Modi talked about the Pahalgam terror attack at SCO, and you have mentioned in your book that India and China beyond binary of friendship and enmity, that India became the part of SCO at 2017, and you have also talked about regional anti-terrorist structure there. And he said that not only an assault on the conscience of India, but also an open challenge to every nation. So in terms of rats, how do you see the whole thing and how the rats is affecting the whole thing which occurred yesterday?
See, first of all, as far as the establishment of SCO is concerned, it was primarily around fighting 3 evil forces. It is the Chinese connotation for fighting terrorism, fighting separatism, fighting extremism, especially in the restive Xinjiang area. So that was China's concern, and no wonder it had to collaborate with the Central Asian republics, because after you can say disintegration of Soviet Union, so many countries all of a sudden, so they mushroomed up, along the borders of China. So in 2001, when Central Asian republics, in fact, it predates that, in 1996, so they started to, converge in Shanghai and started to have the idea to form, such kind of organization, and finally it fructified in 2001. It was security oriented, primarily to fight the forces of 3 evil, and this was reinforced through various peace missions, Shanghai Cooperation Organization that time, Shanghai 5, so they coordinated and had various peace missions. And the third element of that is rats. Which is extremely important because the function of the rats is intelligence sharing, to coordinate amongst the member states and strike against the terror networks, deportation, so on and so forth. I would say that before 2000, before the you can say inception of SCO, there were many terror activities and various networks, so they were crossing the borders. So cross-border terrorism for China, so it was a threat. And you have seen, the kind of terrorist attacks occurring in the restive state of Xinjiang, the eastern Turkestan. So after the rats, they came into force, I would say that, these terrorist activity in China's Xinjiang, and also across the water, so they have come down drastically. And but if we say this efficacy, along the Central Asia, which extends further to, you can say, Afghanistan, or the region of South Asia, or AFPAC, the way it is known, in the Western world and here also. It has not been successful because of various interpretation and problems which I will coming into the next question of Pahalgam.
Yeah.
So Prime Minister Modi, reiterated that our position on terrorism is very, very clear, and in fact he was vocal and vociferously defended India's right to respond to the attacks like Pahalgam in SCO Foreign Minister's statement. And surprisingly this time, India's position, it was, I would say, accommodated by China and various other countries who are observers and who are partners countries. So 16 of them are there, apart from the 10 SCO members. It is quite surprising also, because if you see during Qingdao meeting of our SCO defense minister, so that time our Raksha Mantri, he refused to sign on the joint statement because references to Pahalgam, so they were omitted, right? So they were deleted, and then references to Balochistan, so they were still there. So naturally India was unhappy, and the Chinese side perhaps, so that time wanted to see how India reacted to that. So therefore, at this time, in order to balance, both, India and China, the SCO incorporated the Indian statement here. So it's I would say, adjustment, or also a signaling that despite of having differences, so we are taking along all the partner countries. But having said that, so there are definite structural problems which are inherent in this relationship, not at SCO level. Of course, SCO level, we also have similar kind of problems when you see the issue of Armenia and Azerbaijan, so they also have similar problems. They have also fought a war like India and China, so they fought war. But I think this is connected to India, China, and Pakistan. So these three, and the narrative on terrorism, so which emanates from all these three places. And we have seen that our narrative, it has been countered by the narrative emanating from China and Pakistan. So there you will find there is unanimity, on cross-border terrorism. And this was for this reason, perhaps, in June in Qingdao, this was not recorded.
Okay.
Our position was not, adjusted in the joint statement. We have seen how, in the wake of Pahalgam, Chinese have coordinated their position on cross-border terrorism in tandem with Pakistan, and later, the same thing was reiterated when India and Pakistan went over a 4-day war, known as Operation Sindoor in our country. So therefore, so these structural issues, I think they would remain, and we have also seen how China has supported Pakistan on the issue of terrorism. In fact, protecting the terrorist organization which Pakistan believes are assets for advancing their goals, in Kashmir. And then China have supported them. In fact, they have supported them with the technical hold in United Nations, and then even accommodated Pakistani's interest as far as the membership in certain groups in UN is concerned.
So you talked about the different national priorities in the BRICS, in the SCO, and also we can also see that in BRICS also, but we don't see that in EU much or in NATO. So how do you see that? Why do we have this alliances have this much of different priorities, or
Yeah, of course. One is the composition of SCO countries, this is very, very diverse. It is a huge geographical landmass with massive population. You know, India and China around 2.8 billion population, and we can say that at this point in time it is the largest such organization all over the world, you know, which has this scale, and also this, you can say, the economic scale. So if you see the economic scale, it is almost $30 trillion at this point in time, and this won't be, you know, that in EU. And EU, we would see that it is more homogenization of cultures, of religion, and, you know, of various philosophical thought processes in their countries. And moreover, I think, you know, so they are all being, except some countries, being protected by the US nuclear umbrella. You know, maybe except France, they have their own nukes. UK, they have their own nukes, but rest of the countries, so they depend on United States for their protection. But here, I mean,
no, they don't
it is accommodated. Here, everyone is free to adhere to their independent foreign policy. Like India has so-called strategic autonomy as far as our foreign policy is concerned, and so is with China. So they have different parameters of defining their foreign policy priorities, and Russia does the same thing, and rest of the smaller countries, so they also do the same thing. So accommodating various diverse groupings, and which perhaps is also connected to some of the Chinese policy goals, which perhaps you would be asking in, you know, in another question, I hope so, when we talk about these initiatives President Xi Jinping has announced, and recent one is this global governance initiative. So therefore it is a diverse group, and there are differences, but irrespective of the differences, owing to their own national interest and strategic autonomy, so they are coming together, and they see Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a platform, you know, to advance their national interests. And especially at this point in time, when they congregated in Tianjin, the timing was, you know, you can say, coinciding with Trump's tariffs on all these countries, especially India. So therefore, India, China, and Russia, so they were sort of like stars in this organization and summit at this point in time. And it was also sort of like signaling, I would say, you know, from all the countries to Trump, not only from India. India, of course, it was obvious, but also China. China is also wanting to negotiate some trade deal with Russia, with United States, and Russia also wanting to perhaps, you know, convey a message that we are a serious player, that you need to be seriously negotiating and accommodating our interest.
Yeah. So I will come to the DGI thing, but I will come to the question that Vikram Misri was confronted with during a press conference of ADM, that while we are trying to rebuild our relation with China, but there are troops in India-China border, almost around 50,000 troops in both sides, and he said that formulation of two countries are being partners, not rivals. So how do you see that?
Yeah, this is again, you know, pertaining to the structural problems and issue I've been talking about, India and China. On the one hand, and of course other countries, you know, especially Pakistan and America on the other. But at this point in time, we are focusing only on India and China. So this border is one of the very, very sensitive area. No wonder our Prime Minister pointed, you know, in his statement that relationship has to be built on the basis of mutual trust, mutual respect, and mutual sensitivity. So these shows India's foreign policy priority as far as conducting business with China, because we have a huge trust deficit with China, and trust deficit is primarily, you know, because of the border issue. We had Galwan in 2020, and then we have been having these Corps Commander level talks and also WMMCC talks, and it was owing to the result of these talks that we have reached a certain agreement in establishing these buffer zones along these various friction points in eastern Ladakh. It was done, and it was on the basis of these, when we addressed these issues, that we were able to announce an agreement on patrolling arrangement during Kazan summit last year,
time
October. Yes. And then taking it further from there, you would see that since disengagement of the troops has been realized along all these friction points, and Chinese, so they have withdrawn from Y junction of the Galwan, of the Depsang plans, whereby they retreated back and patrolling was permitted in this area. It is a vast landmass, of course, involving around 1,000 square kilometers of land. And same thing applies to the south, this Chading Nala and all these areas, almost around 900 square kilometers of land. So it's a huge landmass. That means patrolling by the Chinese side by way of constructing forward posts in the areas where India used to patrol, it was made impossible. So by dismantling these, it was made possible, and you see our not Foreign Secretary, our Lieutenant General Dwivedi, telling that there is still a degree of standoff between India and China. So that means it has not been resolved. So that is as far as disengagement is concerned. But the larger issue of de-escalation. That means the troop deployment from both India and China. So they still remain at the line of actual control, facing each other. So which is not a good situation as far as you can say rebalancing or recalibrating or the so-called reset or the warmth, which has been seen in Tianjin in these optics and photo ops, right? I think it will remain there, even though we have announced new confidence building measures during Wang Yi's India visit and his talks with our NSA Ajit Doval. But these are very junior level, I would say, confidence building measures under WMMC, which is a mechanism at Joint Secretary level. I think it defeats the purpose of political parameters which was signed in 2005 by the special representative of India and China during Chinese Premier. During you can say Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao's India visit in 2005, and which calls for working on a framework and then delimiting the border on on ground. And if you see the political parameters, the content. Then, of course, we are trying to find a sort of like package deal. So it is swap, which has been talked about ever since 1960, for the first time. So I think these working, you can say, these confidence building measures, these defeats that purpose. So that means we are still looking to address smaller issues, sectoral issues, and not looking at the border resolution as a whole. So that is my perspective as far as border issue is concerned, and it is going to remain there, and it's not going to go away, because problem is very, very knotty, and to untie the knots is going to be a very, very difficult task.
So now on the multilateralism issue, you talked about that GGI, the Global Governance Initiative, which President Xi Jinping talked about yesterday at the SCO Plus Leader Summit. How do you see that? And he is talking about rebalancing that the equity, everything. So, are they trying to play a big brother's role that USA used to play?
No, basically, I think it is more than that. It is about establishing a new world order.
Okay.
So it is hinting or signaling that so China is at the center stage, of the unfolding new world order, and which I think to some extent, if you go through, these economic indicators, so it is true, to some extent. Now, why I'm saying that it is wanting to reshape the new global order. One, if you see the Chinese foreign policy, right? What is the biggest pillar of the Chinese foreign policy? It is building community of shared future for the mankind, and there are two flanks to it. So one is building a new type of international relations, and of course, this building new type of international relations has two more flanks. So one is China's relations with major powers like America and Russia, and another is China's relationship with these Belt and Road countries, or the so-called Global South. So this is extremely important, and there are various other flanks being added to these. One is the Global Development Initiative, another is the Global Security Initiative, the third is Global Civilization Initiative, and now the fourth, which was announced on 1st of September while he addressed SCO Plus, Global Governance Initiative. So governance primarily, from the Chinese perspective, what is going to be the new norms, and it is sort of like offering a new narrative, of international order, governed by China's approach or Beijing consensus, contrary to Washington consensus, contrary to what United States is offering or has offered. United States led the new global order in the wake of the Second World War, and established various new institutions of global governance, whether it is UN, whether it is IMF, whether it is World Bank, various these Bretton Woods institutions. But China, though it says that it would be working under the Charter of United Nations, but at the same time, if you see the kind of mechanism China has unrolled, so they speak volumes about the Chinese global governance. For example, BRICS Development Bank, right? For example, AIIB. These are all China-led banks.
Okay.
All China-led banks. And now during Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, so Xi Jinping offered, that there should be Shanghai Cooperation Organization Development Bank. So these big initiatives, offered by China, or China, prefers to call them as public goods. So they are very, very different from the Bretton Woods institutions. China says that there are no strings attached, when you are
they're just doing it for social goods.
Yeah, becoming not really social good. There is no charity. Right?
Yeah. There's no free lunch.
Yeah, so there's no free lunch either. So that's why I'm saying that you have to understand Chinese foreign policy, behind rolling out these initiatives, right? So of course, that is one aspect of it. Another is because it believes that United States is initiating unilateral, protectionist policies and derailing multipolar world, and China is working towards, you can say, if you see all these initiatives and the four initiatives which we have talked about, the center piece of all the initiatives, it would be, you know, respecting diversity of civilizations. So you are respecting diversity as it is the case of SCO also, you know, right? And then another feature of that would be, you know, the new high quality development, and that is exactly we see that, you know, the role of SCO, you know, or the boundary of SCO, it has sprawled from security dominated agenda, you know, to various other fields, like it has spread into economics, you know, cooperation.
The banks you mentioned.
Yeah, the bank, of course, you know, is the facilitation, finances, and so many other things, right? And culture, education, people-to-people exchange. So people-centric approaches. So they are central to all these initiatives, including global governance initiative. Though China may come up with a white paper, or, you know, it may pronounce what do they mean by this, but I think people-centric governance or approaches, for example, the poverty alleviation, you know, it remains, you know, maybe at the core, you know, of all these initiatives. And I think this found resonance in the global south, because many countries in the global south, they would like to get rid of poverty. And the third biggest, I would say, feature, it is the modernization and the approaches to development. What are the approaches towards, you know, development? How the development should be. So it is sort of like China's win-win cooperation, or win-win, you can say benefits, bringing benefits or mutual benefits, right, to all these countries. And China, of course, you know, through these initiatives, that they would like to push sort of like narrative of Chinese modernization, because it is before everyone, right, to see that in a very short period in time, such a huge populous country, so it has turned the table against the West, right? So therefore, the Chinese modernization is also at the center, and people-centric approach, as we said, that is also at the center. And China's transfer of technology, especially, you know, in the you can say critical technology, new energy vehicles, lithium-ion batteries, photovoltaic cells. You know, China has monopolized supply chain in these areas, and it is willing to, you know, extend its capacity building or technical expertise, you know, so to other global south countries. So this remains, you know, one of the fundamentals, you can say, of China's approaches towards global south, and I would say also, you know, how China perceives the unfolding changes in the international order. The last point is, you know, the economics of it, because China believes that the Bretton Woods institutions, so they are unnecessarily giving undue advantage, you know, so to the European countries, perhaps including United States itself at this point in time. So why I'm saying this? If you compare the economies of China and maybe entire EU, you know, 1945, when UN was established, or you can say the new global order was established by United States, leading it, China's GDP was 4 times less than that of entire EU. But now comes 2025, so China's GDP is at par with EU. In fact, EU is a little less than China at this point in time, right? And percentage of China's GDP in United States GDP, it used to be, you know, very, very minimal, minuscule. So 3%, and maximum it used to be 7%. You know, but now, you know, it has reached almost 60%. So that shows, you know, the economic strength, the relative economic strength, not only of China, but also rising economies like India and Brazil, say for example India. In 1947, when India became independent, Great Britain was 4 times larger than India. But now India has superseded United Kingdom. But if you see the voting share of these countries in the IMF, we stand no chance. Forget about India, which is hardly having 3%. But China, with such a huge economy, it is still having 7%.
Why aren't they increasing?
And they will not, because voting shares is controlled by the United States, right? United States hold 17%, right? And then along with its allies, it holds even more even. So now the logical conclusion would be that countries with a huge GDP share in the global economy, they should be having greater voting rights, right? But it doesn't work that way. Therefore, in order to have a level playing field, when China has the capacity, when China has deep pockets, so it has intentionally created new institutions of global governance, right? And to show the Americans and the Europeans their place, right? That you will be alienated in the near future. Maybe at this point in time, they still dominate. G7 is still there, but even if you compare G7 with BRICS economies, I mean, it is much, almost equal to that. But China is looking in terms of like future, right? The long-term development, say by 2050, where would be China? Where would be European Union? China would be 4 times more than European Union by that time. So do you think that China will agree to this kind of voting share, this type of global governance system? No, right? So if Western countries, including United States, they are not accommodative of China and India, so naturally they would be look for alternatives, and they have created some of the alternatives, right, as a signal that this is going to happen. But having said that, since we are talking in the present context, since United States remains the largest economy, remains the largest, you can say, military spender, military power in this world, I don't think that in even short term or in medium term, its power is going to be eroded drastically. It is going to be there. As we have pointed out earlier, that the combined GDP of the SCO countries, including plus countries, it is equal to what United States GDP is at this point in time, right? So one country, that is the United States, having combined GDP of the entire SCO bloc. So it shows, the kind of strength the United States still has. So therefore, India, it may be good optics, it may be good signaling, right? Or it may be good venting of our anger on President Trump. But I think we cannot, override America at this point in time. Our relationship with the United States is still strategic, and we have many strong ties which have been nurtured in the last 2 decades, very, very carefully. Therefore, irrespective of Trump's tantrums or some of his allies, you can say dog bites, whatever you call, if I may use that language. I think at the end of the day,
Peter Navarro.
Navarro. At the end of the day, I think United States and India, so they have to come together. There are complementarities, there are potentialities, and United States would still remain relevant for India as a market for its exports, because China and Russia won't be our market for our exports, right?
True.
Because they are looking
for
at India as a market to sell their products.
True.
Because they are exporting countries. Russia exports massive defense equipment, which of course we are buying, And China is primarily a trading nation at this point. I mean, it trades with 150, 170 countries, and is the largest trading partner, of 150 countries all over the world. So it is looking for the market, and India is a lucrative market. But having said that, though it would be beneficial for India, to address some of the structural problems, for example, trade, imbalance of trade deficit of almost $100 billion US, it could be addressed by way of Chinese investment. But the kind of thinking which is going on in Chinese academic circles, as far as India's rise is concerned, so I remain skeptical, apprehensive about China investing in India. So they may be investing in some sector. For example, some of their top-notch, policy advisors of the government. So they said that the way West propped up China's manufacturing capabilities by way of capital, technology, and managerial capacities, China should be careful, building some capacities for India.
And India could be the next
It
China.
could, it could be a rival, right? And like China is a rival now. China has been created as a hegemon to challenge the existing hegemon, right? So this is sort of like a caution which is being aired by the Chinese scholars, and there are various writing on it. In fact, I have also written on this aspect in some of my writings. Therefore, I think the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is a good platform. There is no denying of the fact, but at the same time, I think, according to me, it is incremental, cautious, and pragmatic reset, if you may call it.
So thanks a lot, sir, for joining us. So I would like to end the thing with a small quote which I read at Shiv Shankar Menon's last book, where sir just told about the unilateralism of USA. So he there told that the world is neither unilateral nor multilateral, because the world is multilateral from the economic perspective because of globalization, and from the military perspective it is unilateral because nobody is above USA. Do you agree with that, kind of?
Yeah, at this point in time, of course, I think it, as I said, that it still remains, the global COP, because it can project its power from anywhere. It has so many, bases all over the world. No one else has that kind of basis, and China, if need to reach that kind of standard and capabilities, it still has a long time to go. But yes, China has bridged technological and military gap with United States drastically, and that is why I'm saying that it is the challenger, or the new challenger, to the existing